get people to funnel through, to do the right thing, from the leads to turn into patients, and those patients to turn into procedures, right? There's always different things that need to happen at the right time, and the right message needs to go out at those times, so that way you can get the conversions that you need to get. Well, first thing is like, hey, well, how can I help them in terms of getting everything in the same place? So we have an omni-channel conversation where phone calls come in, website forms, emails, social DMs all come into one place, and it timestamps it all. So you can see the patient story, right? In the EMRs right now, you see like, hey, the practice story, because you see all the calendar of the practice and this and that, but you don't see the patient story. This puts the patient story in one place, and you can reference it, right? To say, okay, where did somebody leave off? If they're sick or they're out or whatever, I know exactly where to pick up, right? To actually have that conversation to then get them to do the next thing. So this is on the front end and also on the back end as well, because they can send in photos, they can send in different things, or wish pics or anything like that, right? And then even post up questions or anything like that. They can send them through this whole platform. So you can see the entire communication channel from there. After that, it's going to organize it. So now after we get the communication right, we want to organize the whole pipeline, the phases and stages, right? So you're really familiar with it in terms of they come in for a consult. Now what do they need to do? There's a whole workflow that goes behind it, and Alan's huge about these workflows, right? So in terms of these, the front desk gets organized from new leads to actually get to be booked appointments, because that's your KPI. That's probably what Alan is looking at to say, okay, how many new leads came in and how many booked appointments? Well, it's going to support you. Mainly what you're going to see is just this drag and drop. You can pick these people up after you call them this, that, you can drag them over, and it'll say contacted. If they didn't respond, you can just drag them over, and then it'll start dripping out content to them, right? Emails, SMS.
I worked with a system like that before.
Okay, yeah.
I can't really remember the name, but it was really efficient because you talked to the software.
Yep.
So, what is the name of this one?
Add Vital.
It was.
But after that, it's automatically going to fill the pipeline for you as a patient care coordinator. All the people that get quoted, they'll fill up that pipeline to say these are the people that got consulted, and you'll be able to drag them, drop them into either they nurtured or they book it. If they booked a procedure in NextSec, it'll automatically pull them out of all these automations, and it'll start a different drip for the appointment reminder for that surgery.
That's beautiful. Does it do up to a year follow-up appointments?
However long you want to.
Beautiful.
Right.
Because I think that's where
I told you she'd be the great person.
Yeah.
I think that's where because if I may hijack the conversation.
Go for it.
Our surgical patients, the majority are not local.
Yep.
So they're snowbirds, or they just pick us out of the internet, fly in and out, fly back in to see us. But the ones that are snowbirds, I think we lose them.
Yep.
So I would love to have the setup where in 1 year they automatically get a letter, hey, it's been a year since your last procedure, because I'm a one-woman show.
Yes.
I don't have that ability. I don't have enough time to do that.
This will do it.
This will be beautiful.
Yeah, so this will do it in terms of that. You can send an email, a text message, you can do all the different types of things, right? Just check in. So for me, like I have a 6-month and a 1-year follow-up in my practice that I say, hey, how are your scars doing, right? And if you have any concerns about them, we have lasers that can treat them. Want to book an appointment? Click here. I think the biggest thing I've learned ever having the software thing is that psychology matters more than the actual activity. Right? And so the psychology of like how we pick up the phones or what we do or how we say, right? Like whether when you pick up the phone, if you're in a bad mood or if you are smiling when you pick it up, right? Makes a massive difference of how you say even hello and how the energy like transfers. Well, even you take that to the next level, like when somebody comes in, when somebody talks to you about a certain procedure, when they come in for their follow-up, how does all that fit together to then say, hey, you know what? I didn't go to Ocean Drive. I went to go to my family, of Ocean Drive that gave me these treatments that is in my best interest for what I'm doing. Right? Because that's the story that you want, right? Like that's the brand.
You want the patient to trust you.
Oh yeah.
You want to deliver the best possible outcome. And sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But when we don't, we want to have all the tools to make that patient satisfied.
100%.
Sometimes there isn't 100% satisfaction.
Agree.
But they need to feel that they were cared for.
Yeah. I think being seen and being heard, right? In the generation that we're in, those are the two things that we lacked as children, And so if you flip it back around in the psychology of like when you have consultations and the rest of this stuff, that's where all these like little touch points and things like come in, right? You want to be seen, you want to be heard in what your complaints, what your thought process is, to then say, this is normal, this is not normal, we can fix it, we can't. What are the things that are my options, right? I think that's the majority of it. And you can customize everything that you want along the journey. So whether it is the timing or the messaging or the way the email looks, all that stuff. Okay. We usually will build out the nurture sequences for you guys on the front end of it for the 15 procedures for a 3 email sequence to say, hey, what is it? Who's it good for? Who's the right good candidate? And then an FAQ, right? There'll be videos that will ask. I mean, I think you guys have a ton of different content. So you can just put it in there of like, hey, and Alan is very sharp of like quick decision on that. He'll know exactly what content he's going to put in each one of these places and go from there. Like these are examples from some of our clients right now of like different types of branded content. So it's going to match your branding in terms of what you're doing. You guys have 3 different sectors in terms of plastic surgery, med spa, and derm, right? And you're going to want to say different things and sound differently, right? And that's how this gives you that customization when they go to that website and they put in, hey, well, I have my procedure of interest is getting rid of my skin cancer. It's going to be different than getting Botox, right? You want that to be different. But that's where the personalization comes in to say, now you're only giving me information exactly what I'm interested in. And I think that's what helps the conversions
And
drastically.
when are we rolling this in? Soon?
It's,
I told you.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you come up with this? Did you create this?
Oh, you created that?
Yeah.
Oh, I
You
didn't
sat
know
there,
that.
Brad.
Oh, real.
It was out of necessity, right? It started my practice
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
try to put all these pieces together and I was like,
This is
it doesn't give you any information, right? Because the information that you want to know is what happens and where does it happen from. So not only does like tell you what the leads turn into, how many people booked, but it tells you which source works for you. And so this is Facebook forms, is purple. There's no purple over here. So,
And this is one thing we don't do in this office. We don't ask, how did you hear about us? Okay.
but so this is not manual. This is automatic. So since we are hooked up with all your sources, it will already tag these things accordingly and then show you what actually brought you revenue,
That's awesome.
right? And so Facebook is not a good worthy thing to run ads on for what this was doing, right? So a lot of times money saved is better than money earned. So it tells you that and tells you also from the lead source dashboard of like how much revenue actually came in from each source. So you know that part. For staff, there is accountability on that too, because each staff member gets assigned these things. You can see your own conversion numbers. So that helps either justify raises or not justify raises, right? One of the 2 different things, right, that you can see. Overall, what does this do for a practice? Helps conversion rates, flat out, from all the way through. These are 3 different doctors. One doctor's like, no, it's me, it's how I'm talking about it. This is why I'm converting at a higher rate, and this and that. Well, he went from 49 to 76. So I asked him, I was like, well, what are your partners doing? So he was like, I'll let you know next week. And he went back and he was like, all right, well, my partners also saw a bump. So it's actually the process that goes in to get the follow-ups and stuff to happen. And then it shows in revenue, right? They started in 125K months and now they're at 750 consistent for over a year. So that's just like the general gist of like, hey, what we do and how we put it all together. But if you understand the why, then you know why you have to do the certain parts of like, why do you have to respond to people within the first 5 minutes, right? Well, because it leads to an 80% conversion rate. But we're going to help support you because there's going to be an automated text that goes out. There's going to be an email that gets out. So it helps buy you time. And then even the AI. So we have an AI whole bot that will respond to people. We have it live 24/7 for us, right? Some practices only have it after hours and weekends. Just depends on what your comfort level is. I'd say use it somewhere where don't have staff right now, like after hours and weekends, and then see if you want to use it for the rest of the time. But my staff, like, they'll go in there and they'll be like, man, I'm learning a ton of stuff from this bot, right? Like, because it has all the information and it only is contained from the website.
Wow, that's amazing.
cool.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, ladies, for
Yeah, yeah.
coming.
What questions do you have?
I don't think very many, to be honest.
There's an app also for your phone. So if you go onto your phone, You can run everything from here as well in terms of the conversations. So there's
Okay,
like
cool.
a whole conversation thing. You can see the messaging in that back and forth, right? You can call out from here. It won't say your cell phone number. It'll literally be the patient, like the practice's number in there. You can also see the drag and drop, like who's in what stage, and you
Okay.
can call them if you want to, or message them, or whatever, and go through it.
Do you
So
have to physically drag into each? I saw on one of them it said, like after 3 days we'll move into nurture. Or
it will,
whatever. Is
right?
that
But
how-
that's if you forget.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
If you forget,
goal is to be on.
yeah.
it.
If you forget, it'll automatically do it, right? Or if it falls on the weekend, it'll automatically do it. And so that was the purpose of it, to like help you capture the things like where you might not be
Right.
available.
Okay, that makes sense.
Other
Cool.
questions?
I don't think I have any questions. I think overall it'll be super helpful. Super helpful.
But I think it'll connect everything with the EMR part, and there's nothing you have to transfer here to the next tech. It automatically, when they book an appointment, it'll make it in next tech. It'll put all the information in
Cool.
there. You can send out reminders. Are you guys using the next tech portal, Or no?
Like for reminders.
patient portal?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you can still send them a reminder to fill out the portal, and like it'll define all those little steps, right? Because that's what we have next tech as well. We have them fill out the patient portal for that. We have for our med spa, we have a different intake form that we use on Ad Vital side for their skincare and stuff like that, because I want to know some of these things, and it triggers other things to happen. In next tech, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's like,
Even
for instance,
registration you can.
yeah, from
have this
registration,
going.
yeah, so from, they'll register and then they'll do skincare intake and they'll do the patient portal. And skincare intake, if like I catch some things like rosacea or other things, then there's other
Right.
things that we have to offer for them,
Right.
then they start getting that information too,
Cool.
right? And so that's how it all kind of works together.
Cool. Very neat.
Other questions?
No, this is awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, right, in terms of that part of it.
Yeah, it